Okay, we're going to try this again. I did a broadcast earlier and it didn't get saved for some reason. Maybe I hit the wrong toggle. What I'm trying to do here is document how we use Roblox, Unity, and AltSpace VR all together, and how we create worlds in Roblox so that we can then export via Unity to AltSpace. And the idea is that we only should really create a world once, but we should be able to do a lot of things with it. And I like being in Roblox and having the ability to create a world and then play it with my students, with my children, with friends. But I have to recreate it in AltSpace because Unity, unfortunately, does not have the ability to talk, or you can only chat with text, and that's very difficult. It also doesn't have the ability to share screens and show videos, YouTube videos, or websites. So right now, let's go ahead and get this beehive into Unity, and then we'll have that as part of our Unity scene. So the beehive here, beehive cinder block bottom is there. You'll see that I also have the beehives that I got, and I got them off of the toolbox under models. I just typed in beehive. That's the great, beehive. The great thing about Roblox is that the user community has created so much good stuff. So there's all these different beehives. This one actually has moving bees, but I doubt that they'll come into AltSpace. We can try it. I mean, it doesn't hurt. Let's just see. It's not the kind that we have here, but we'll try it. And so I'm going to select these beehives, and I'm going to bring them into the cinder block beehive so that it's all one model that has everything in it. All right, so I'm going to take that collection and I'm going to right click on it in the Explorer, and I'm going to hit Export Selection, and that just opens up a window which you can't see, but it's just a folder, and I have a specific folder for my exports as OBJs, and I'll call it beehives, and I'll even say with cinder, so I know that it's beehive with cinder block. All right, having done that, I can also bring a couple other things before I leave, like this soccer net, which I want to bring into the game. And so I'll grab the soccer net, and it says goal, and I'll right-click on that and export that selection as goal for soccer. Okay. Hi, baby. It's okay. And is there anything else I want to bring in? Oh, the badminton. Yes, absolutely. So I found the badminton by going here and just putting in badminton. And there was a racket and there was a net, volleyball net. So I selected that one, and that's volleyball. I guess it's volleyball, not badminton. Might as well also bring in the badminton racket. And just sort of leave that there, and the badminton shuttle, and put that on the ground. But those are props, and they don't stay in place, but the badminton racket does. I'm sorry, the volleyball net does, so I'm going to export that. So export selection and export volleyball nets. Alright. And these are exporting as OBJs. If I do want to have these as props later on in AltSpace, then I should grab them like this model, give it a name, which is badminton birdie, and export that. So badminton birdie, and the volleyball. It says kick me, but I want to change it to volleyball, and then export that. So basically what I'm saying is that you can get your models from Roblox, and then you can bring them into Unity and then bring them into AltSpace. I don't know what happened to the racket. that I had here. I thought I brought in a racket, but apparently not. Is it under badminton? Badminton birdie. It wasn't even named, so I don't know. So let me bring it in again. Badminton racket. It's just called racket. And then I can take that and export that selection as badminton. Okay. Alright, so these objects are now in my Roblox game, but I'm also putting them into AltSpace. And the way I do that, now that I've exported them, let me change my OBS Studio over to Unity, is I come to Unity and I look in my models folder over in project. I should have it somewhere here. There it is, Culhane models. And I have a whole bunch of models that I've brought in already from Roblox. And I'm not going to right-click and say import asset, because that doesn't always work. What I'd rather do is open up the folder, which you can't see once again, because it will not allow you in OBS Studio, unless I were to... That's just a pain. Just trust me, I just opened up a folder, and I'm dragging in from that folder. I'm going to drag in the badminton birdie MTL for material, the object, badminton racket. I'll drag those in, and those should appear for you. And then I'm going to drag in, what else did I bring in here? I brought in a volleyball nets, and volleyball. And I think that's all I did so far here. Volleyball. So I'll drag those in. And I think that's the new stuff that I brought in. House, carport, okay. Yeah. Alright, so having done that, you should now see down here there's a volleyball. And I can bring the volleyball in. The problem with the volleyball is if I bring it in here, and let me hit F to go to it, that volleyball is just going to be stuck in the world. It will not be usable, because what I'm creating here is a set. Think of it like a Hollywood set. The template for AltSpace has immovable objects that stay there and become the backdrop. And then you use something called kits to put in props, which, like this volleyball, would be used later on in the game. And I'll show you that by putting this in, then later on we'll make it into a prop. So might as well just bring this over to the volleyball court. It'll be static. It'll always be sitting there, unfortunately. And we've also found that Roblox comes in at about 1.5 to 2.5 times the size of Unity for AltSpace. So what I'll have to do once I move this into place is I'll have to size it substantially down. So let me go to this and scale it to 0.025, I guess is what it is, 0.025 and 0.025 and 0.025. I could be wrong, it could be just 0.25. Let's see by zooming in on it. It moves it, unfortunately, which is the craziest thing, and that drives me absolutely nuts. So I'm always playing catch up with this. And bring it down to the ground and bring it over to the volleyball court and see if it sizes out or if I messed up on the size. So it's not quite in the world yet. Bring it up. And there's this weird thing with clipping in Unity. So I'm having trouble seeing stuff because it clips. But there we go. That's the volleyball. And now as we zoom out, that looks pretty tiny. Let's see, we'll have to compare it to the net. It's not that bad. Alright. Now let's bring in the volleyball net. And the volleyball net is here. and we drop it in. Once again, it comes in and into the wrong location. And it comes in way too big. So let's move this over. Volleyball net, volleyball net. Oops, I think I picked the wrong thing up. That's the garden. Where's the volleyball net? There's the volleyball net. Nope, that's not it. Just have to follow it here. Volleyball net. Okay, Control Z out of it. Seems like I made a mistake there. All these parts. I don't want all those parts. I just want to move the volleyball net in its entirety. So bring it down. And this time I'm going to scale it by hand. And zoom in on it by hitting F. Scale it down again. Still too big. And move it. And you see how it says, as I've been scaling it by hand, it says 0.34. So I guess I was wrong. It probably is about 0.25. Let me try that. 2.5 and 0.25. So 0.25 seems to be the right factor, more or less. Let's look at it from up and down. Bring it over here. Alright. That means that the ball, of course, was way, way, way too small. So I'm going to scale this back up to 0.25, 0.25, and 0.25. It gets lost again as usual, so you got to find it by hitting F, and there it is. And that's a pretty darn big volleyball, actually. So that's one of the ones that is not coming in at the right size for a volleyball. So let's scale it to 0.15. Like I said, I've had objects that come in properly at 0.15 and objects that come in properly at 0.25. This seems to be a 0.15 object. Okay, so there's the volleyball. Thing as I mentioned is that this volleyball, it ain't gonna move. It's just gonna sit there in the game, so we'll have to also bring it in as a prop eventually. But let's have an extra volleyball just sitting here. Actually, let's put it on the sidelines. I'm thinking inside sidelines. And let that be a volleyball on the sidelines. Okay, an extra volleyball. So what else did we put in here? We had the net for soccer, and let's put in the badminton racket. Again, this will be a static one that will not move, and then we'll have to make it into a prop that can move. When you bring stuff into the world, you're bringing it in, as I said, as like a Hollywood set background, like New York City or the Western town or medieval England, and then you shoot many movies on it. You keep changing the props around as you make your movie, but you use the same basic set over and over, and that's what a template is. A template is like a movie set. You go to Hollywood or Universal Studios, and they take you on the backlot tour, and you go to New York, and it was used in Gangs of New York, and it was dressed with props to look like it was the 1800s, and then you go, you see that they used it in King Kong and dressed it to look like the 1930s, and then they used it in Serpico, or they used it in The French Connection, dressed it to look like the 1970s, by changing the cars and changing the costumes and changing the refrigerators and televisions and stuff of that nature. So that's, we make this 0.15 and this 0.15. So technically these things are props that don't belong in the world as part of the set. But I'm going to have some objects in the set so we can see the ones that are stuck there, and then I'll try to make some into props and hope that they come in okay. Oh, they lost it again. Always moves it. This is such a pain. And what about the beehive? We'll get to that in a second too. Alright, so we have a badminton racket without a racket part of it. A ring. Oh, and there should be the badminton birdie too. There's the racket, but of course it would not be standing up unless it was stuck in the sand. So we could do that. That doesn't hurt anything. And do I have the birdie? Yes, I do. I have the badminton birdie. And it came in over here. And so let's move it. I wish I... Oh, I guess you know what it probably does? It probably everything comes into 0, 0, 0. Maybe. Let's get that over here. And now, birdie onto the sidelines. I'm bringing all the props in because you have to have them in the game to make them into prefabs, to make them into props anyway. So it's worth having a copy in there. Hit F to zoom in on it. Come up here. Change the scale to 0.15. And the scale here. 2.15, and the scale here, 2.15. Now I gotta find it again, 30, and then place it again. Major pain. It shows up in the middle of the forest now. Probably I should be doing all my scaling now before I even bring anything in the game, so I don't suffer the frustration of it always getting displaced every single time that we go to use it. So there's the birdie on the field. Now, we talked about putting in the soccer thing, and so that should be in my folder. What did I call it? Did I call it soccer? Or did I just call it net? Let's see, MN. No, you can't see what I'm looking at right now. What did I call that? Maybe what I should do is do the view as details. Maybe I can show you this. Let me see. If I go back to OBS Studio and I click on Add Window Capture, and I say that this is folders. Create new. Let's see, folders, and then yeah, it works. Okay, so you should be able to see that now. Yes, much better. So you can see the folder that I'm using. And let me go back to that folder. I'm juggling in between here. So I did the badminton birdie, I did the banana tree, banana beehives. Certainly want to get the beehives in. So there's the beehives with cinder blocks. So let's select the material and the object and drag them in. And let's do the bees texture and get that in. And then I'm pretty sure that I could have done volleyball, badminton, volleyball. Yeah, goal for soccer. There it is. Goal for soccer. And then drag those in. Alright, let me close this up and let me turn that off for you in OBS Studio so it's not bothering you there. Alrighty. And now yeah. So now I can bring in the goal for soccer. It should be under here. Goal for soccer. There it is. Move it over there. And of course it doesn't show up. It shows it way over here. So now let's be smart about it and bring the scale down to 0.15 and 0.15 and 0.15. And let's find it. There it is. And let's move it where it needs to be. So here on the property, they have it facing out. Okay, let's rotate it. Alright, so we have that in there, and it seems to be about the right size, so that's good. And then the beehive. So we go to, let me save, and let's find the beehives. There it is, beehive cinder block. Drop it in, find it. It all came in fine. Change it to 0.15 and 0.15 and 0.15. Zoom in on it and find it again. Bees, where are you bees? Beehive, there it is. Beehive. Find it, it's there. And let's get that in its place on the property. The cool thing is that you're using a Google map to create your world of a real location. And actually 0.15 wasn't perfect, was it? It's a little small. So let's see what 0.2 does. That's a bit big already, you can tell. 0.15. Let's do it manually then. Let's go to scale and scale it up. Uh-oh. Looks like the battery's going low on this. Plug this computer in. Oops. My mouse just stopped working. This is very bizarre. Maybe it's because the battery needs to be plugged in. One moment. I'm going to plug the battery in. And why is that loud? That's not plug that.
Careful.
What is plugged in here? Can you plug this into, oh shoot.
What?
I need this plugged in somewhere. Let's try that. Alright, mouse is working again. And just the brightness needs to be put up. Where's my brightness on the computer? There's brightness. Alright. Boy, so what did we have here? We were looking at the beehive and we were seeing that 0.26 was close. I can make it a little bigger. Move it. 0.219. So it's within that range. It's still a little bit big. Like that. It's about 0.2 in this case. Fair enough. Beehive. It has to be rotated though to -90 in Y. Not -90. I didn't mean that. Control Z. -180. I'll do that manually too, otherwise it disappears. It's that weird thing. So using the manual stuff often works a whole lot better for some weird reason. Or do I want it to be that way? Maybe I want it to be... Yeah, I want it that way. Because now if I want to add more beehives, I should be able to get in here, open it up, and there's bees, 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 bees. Where's the other beehive? Oh, that one there. They're made of parts, so I'm really not going to do that. Because I was going to get in here and try to replicate it, but since I brought it in as one big model, it's just a bit of a pain. I mean, you could technically do this. Yeah, I guess I could do that. Yeah, so I can do that. these parts here, and then see if I hit duplicate and then move it over. That gives me another beehive to play with. Alright, fair enough. So I got my beehives. I guess I got everything in I want. So now it's time to show you how we get that into AltSpace. So here, look, I'm using AltSpace. I'm using Unity version 2019.4.2 F1. And I'm using Unity Hub, and I have many versions of Unity on my PC. But the one for using with the AltSpace uploader is 2019.4.2 F1. No other one seems to work right now with the AltSpace uploader package, which is this thing over here. When you install Unity 2019.4.2 F1, and then you go to AltSpace's webpage and download their package for uploading, and then click on it, it will install itself into this version of Unity in the scene only, and it'll give you a tab here that you'll use to open up this window. So I want to have that. That's a little bit too big. All right. So when you have that up there, then there's two different options. There's template and there's kit. Template is the Hollywood set I talked about, New York City, the old western town, Paris. Kit is the props I was telling you about. So if I hit template, it's going to take everything that's in the scene, including that volleyball and that racket and all the beehives, and it's going to make them part of a static scene that's going to go in. And I've already put in my username and password for AltSpace. So when I click on Load Your Tab Templates, it then communicates with the AltSpace server and tells me I have two templates that I've created, one called My AltSpace Kit and one called Rosebud. And even though this is Rosebud, I've been putting everything in My AltSpace Kit. I created a new template for later once I figured this out. But right now everything's in My AltSpace Kit template on which my world is based. And then I'm building for Windows and for Android. If I just build for Windows, then I only see it on the PC or on the HTC Vive with Steam. If I build for just Android, I only see it on the Oculus Quest. I'm building for both, so both are checked. If you're only doing for one platform, uncheck one, save yourself some time. And that's really it, because now I've got this whole scene, this whole environment, and if I just hit build and upload, it's going to compress everything that's in there, and hopefully, if we didn't upload something bad, it'll put it into AltSpace. First thing that you should see that says things are going right is this green bar saying bundling and compressing data. And don't panic, all of your stuff disappears from the world. That's because it is putting it into a prefab-like area for upload. But as it does that, it will spit back out the main camera and the directional light, because AltSpace has its own camera and its own light. It doesn't want yours. And believe me, if you do get a camera in, it's going to mess things up, because I've done it. Okay? We're building and compressing the data now. And we have to wait for a little bit for that to happen. And once it's done, it'll open a command line interface, and then it'll start uploading once it handshakes with the AltSpace server. There it goes. So it says handshake, client hello, server hello, certificates, server keys are exchanged. So it's doing all this talking, and it's doing it for AltSpace. Then it sort of stalls at HTTP 1.1.100 continue, and that is what's going on when it's actually now loading the stuff in. So we're not done yet. It has to, everything has to come back, and it has to say build complete for it to be done. Now I suggest that you do this rebuild of your template every time you add 3 or 4 objects. If you build your entire world and then you try to upload it, and something you brought in your world has some weird script in it, or it's too many faces, it's not been decimated properly, it's too big, then this whole process could crash and stall, and you won't know what caused it to do that. So you start simple by uploading just a basic plane with your Google map on it. First moment, make sure that comes in, then start adding your assets bit by bit so that you know that you haven't made mistakes. I put stuff in it didn't work with it, and then gone, what was it that I brought in? You got to go backtrack and take out everything that didn't work until you get back to an upload that does work. Now today I know that I'm only doing the beehives and the badminton and the volleyball, so if anything goes wrong I'll take those out and re-upload my my world, my template, and then I can try to add just the volleyball, just the beehives. It may be that the beehive I brought in with the animated bees is not going to let this happen because it may have a script associated with it, for all I know. And unless AltSpace kicks out that script, then it could gum things up. Notice it did kick out the main camera and the dimensional light, but our world still hasn't repopulated here, meaning things are still being processed. So you wait. And going back to Roblox, there's so many other things I want to bring in. I want to bring in the solar hot water system. I want to do that. I want to improve that, actually. These solar panels are no longer on the property. I do want to bring in the signs in the battery box. I've already got the cows in. The thing about the signs is I have to take a picture of the text because it's not, it'll bring in the sign, but it won't bring in the text because that text is buried under here in a surface GUI as a text label, and AltSpace doesn't know what to do with that information. See, that text is down here somewhere in text label right here. That's the actual text right there on the right. So certainly AltSpace doesn't know what to do with that information, so it'll just bring in a blank sign. So I'll have to take a picture and use that as a texture. Go back and see, it looks like everything's done because our world is back and everything's back in here. And now let's go over to the website and see if it uploaded properly. So we can turn off Roblox Studio and turn off Unity. All right, and now let's look at the AltSpace website. Here's my world. Let me show you how this works. You have worlds, and if you're participating in the world thing, and then you have my worlds. If I go into my worlds, I got to look at my universe. I look inside my universe, and I see that I have all these different worlds I've created. These are each like the movie we're making. And when I click on the Rosebud Continuum and look at template, it'll show that I'm using my AltSpace Kit template. And here it tells me I just uploaded 2 minutes ago to the Android 13.9 megabytes and to PC 15.1. Don't know why less got uploaded to Android and PC. Maybe there's some dropout when we get to the Oculus Quest. Then I can go to the world that this is in, because this template is that static scene. So now I go back to worlds and my worlds and universes and go to this world. Look, I want to close this up because this is the old version. It doesn't have the badminton. You want to see that? Hold on. Let me get out of here. Exit AltSpace. You don't see that yet because I'm still in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit enter now, and this will launch AltSpace program, which is on my PC. And so I'm leaving the website now, and I am going to AltSpace. And AltSpace is launching now. And give it a chance to load the environment. The environment's getting fairly big now with a lot of objects, so it takes longer. So you wait for this. And wait a sec. Now we should come in, and let's see how much came into the PC side. And later on I have to put on my Oculus Quest and see how much came into the Android side. And hope that everything works. Sometimes it... Alright, so here we are in the world, and it looks like, yes, our our soccer goal came in and looks good. There's our volleyball net. There is our volleyball and our birdie and our racket. But as I said, you can't do anything with them. You can't kick them. You can't use them because they are not props. They're pieces of the template now. But that's good, and the beehive is also in, so that's gratifying. Let me use the FP and zoom in. Bees are not moving, of course, and that's a shame. So that's another thing, is that static stuff is static. It doesn't move. Whereas when you bring in the prop, see how these cows are moving. So there is, props have more interactivity. Now, I didn't put in the basketball court that was in Unity because I brought this in from AltSpace, and AltSpace has made a basketball prop that is interactable. They've made that available. So when I click on that, I have a basketball, and then I shoot the basketball. It's easier in VR than with a PC. Don't try to play basketball on the PC with this. It's really not easy. I don't even know how you throw the ball. Sometimes it throws and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm still trying to figure that one out. Yeah, great. Shoot. It's not throwing at all. Lovely. Alright, so there's that. But at least we know. I don't know what you're supposed to do. Like look at the target and then right click and then shoot. No. It really is Fuji. It's like stuck in my hand. Alright, so that will leave it there. I'm walking around with a basketball, but at least we see that you can come from Roblox into AltSpace. That's the important thing. And then we'll talk in the next broadcast. I will show how we bring props like these basketballs. Gosh, this is annoying. Just shoot, will you? Alright, it won't. And like that drone that's up there. Oh, looks like I shot. Anyway, it kicked me out. So, thanks for watching, and I hope that you will have as much success, at least as I do. And please share what you've been doing when you're you go on your journey working with Roblox and AltSpace. So long.